Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha and today I'm very excited to share some of my product recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale. So I have a long list of recommendations, so let's get started by each category. I'm going to start with skincare and tools, and I'm going to include timestamps for everything in case you want to jump between different sections in the description box below. So Sephora has different tiers. I know the VIB Rouge sales have already begun, so I'm going to include the dates right here on the screen so you know which particular date your sales begins. So for each product, I think I'm going to link the original price and also the sale price with the 20% off that you're going to get on the screen. So starting with skincare products, the first is cleansers. So I have 3 picks. 2 of these are kind of solid balmy textures that you scoop out a bit, warm up between your hands, and then pat it into your skin, and it really melts down the makeup. So the first one is this Eve Lom cleanser that I'm going to link here. It's a very expensive cleanser, so that's more like a luxury or an indulgence at $80, but it's a really good cleanser. Another one that I have loved, probably more than the Eve Lom one, is the one by Pharmacy, which looks like this, and that retails only for, but relative to $80, this is $34, so that's a great deal. It just smells very refreshing and just takes off and melts all the makeup on the face, so it's beautiful. So these are great for your cleanse number 1. The other cleanser that I want to recommend, and I think this is a beautiful cleanser for step number 2, and I think it would be great for all skin types, and that's this Philosophy Purity cleanser. It's just a lovely cream-based cleanser that doesn't dry out your skin. At the same time, it doesn't feel like a heavy cleanser or an oil-based cleanser, so I think it's a perfect for a second cleanse once you do take off your makeup with the first step. Then for serum, I really wanted to recommend the Ole Henriksen Truth Serum. That's something I've used for many years now and I continue to use it on and off. It's a vitamin C serum and it's just great to give a beautiful glow to the skin. As a moisturizer, I also really enjoy using this Versali Rose Gold Elixir Oil. So I like to use this on days when my skin is feeling dry. So usually the area around my mouth is the driest, especially in winter or colder months. So either I just apply it to that area or I just take a few drops and massage it all over my face and neck area. It really hydrates the skin and it's also good under makeup, so it doesn't really move the makeup, and that's what I have on today under my foundation. So I don't know if you can see a certain glow and moisture. My skin doesn't look dry basically. So I would really recommend that if you're looking for a good oil-based moisturizer. One skincare product that I swear by that really changed my skin, especially for acne and also for texture, is this product by Sunday Riley. It's called Good Genes and it's super expensive, but it's totally worth it. I've already bought a backup for this product and I truly love it. So when my skin is really bad, so it has a lot of breakouts or something, then I tend to use it every night. But usually if my skin is doing decently well, like it's doing now, I use it 2 to 3 times a week. So it might be a good idea to go into your local Sephora and get a sample of this product, because lactic acid is kind of gentle on the skin, but you never know with different skin types. So always get a sample or do a small patch test on your skin and then go in and get the full size product. Now as a face mask, I would really recommend this Glam Glow Mud Clearing Mask, I believe. It's really good and I love using that, especially as a spot treatment. Now as an eye cream, this is the one I use by Origins. It's the Ginseng Eye Cream and I really like it. It depuffs my under eye area and it also helps in combating dark circles. So that's the one I would recommend. And then cotton pads. I know it's a simple thing and you can get a lot of different options at the drugstore for way cheaper, but the Eyeshadow cotton pads are stunning. They're about $10 for I think a pack of 160 or something like that, and they are amazing. You should try them and you're never going to look back once you try them. They are hands down the best cotton pads, especially when you're taking off makeup from the eye. You don't want something to irritate the eye, so this is something I highly recommend and I have purchased this for years now. And then finally another product that is kind of a tool, which is the Foreo Luna, and I have the one for oily skin and I really like that over the Clarisonic once because you don't have to charge this for 3 to 6 months depending on how frequently you use it. Secondly, it doesn't feel as harsh as the bristles of the Clarisonic, so it's way gentle and you don't have to replace any heads or anything. So this is definitely a way better purchase than the Clarisonic in my opinion. This is again another product that has really helped in clearing out the skin. So I really like this product and I tend to use this 2 to 3 times a week at least. It's perfect in combination with the Purity Cleanser. Next, moving on to some other tools that you can buy during the VIP sale. The first one would be a Beauty Blender sponge. So you can either buy the single one or also they have different deals on packs. I would also recommend a solid cleanser that Beauty Blender sells. So it's really good for traveling especially, and it really is good at cleaning out the Beauty Blender sponge completely. I also believe they have a combination of like 1 or 2 beauty blenders with the liquid Beauty Blender sponge cleanser. So I would recommend that kit as well because it's a good value deal, and then plus the 20% off, it's a really good value for money. The next thing is the Kevyn Aucoin lash curler, and I have used a few different lash colors, and I do think that the Kevyn Aucoin one is just a bit better than the other eyelash curlers. So if you're in the market for a new one, I would highly recommend this one. Next are these empty palettes by Makeup Forever. They are fantastic. They range from about $10 to $14 depending on the size, but these are brilliant to store all your loose or single pan ColourPop eyeshadows, Makeup Forever eyeshadows, also great for Makeup Geek eyeshadows, MAC eyeshadows, so I really love them. These are very sturdy for traveling and way better than the Z palette. So these are the palettes I would recommend. Now moving on to primers. For the eyes, you know, my favorite primer hands down is this NARS eyeshadow base, and you've seen me use in all my tutorials. That's because it's the only eyeshadow primer that actually works on my oily eyelids, so that's something I always pick up. Now as a face primer, I would recommend the Makeup Forever primer, so either the mattifying one or the pore minimizing one depending on your concern. I have both. I've used both for various occasions, and they both do what they claim to do, so they're good primers. Moving on to face powders, I have 2 recommendations. The first one being the Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder. It's a cult favorite and for good reason. It is just perfect for setting your concealer and also your foundation. So that's the powder I have today under my eyes and also all over my face to set my foundation and concealer. So that's a powder I would recommend. And the second one I haven't tried yet, but I've heard so many people rave about it and I think I'm going to get it. It's the Invisimatte Blotting Powder by Fenty Beauty. So that's something to try out. It's supposed to not have flashback in pictures, so that's a good thing about that powder, and it's also finely milled. The powder also comes in a compact, so it's not loose like the Laura Mercier one and therefore very travel friendly. I have one random item for nails, and that is the Sephora glass nail file. I'm going to put a picture right here. I've had one for over 2 years and it's really good. And if you didn't know, these glass or crystal nail files are way better than traditional nail files for the health of your nails. So yes, I would recommend that. Now lipsticks. There's quite a bit of recommendations in this category. The first one being the Anastasia Beverly Hills lip palette. It is something I love. You can create a lot of different lip looks with it. You can mix and match shades. It comes with a little palette and also a little scoop with a brush, so it's just perfect and I really have got so much use out of it, so I would recommend that one. From Huda Beauty, I would recommend their lip strobes, so buy any color that you like. I personally preferred Saucy, so that's the shade I have. And then I also like her matte liquid lipsticks. These liquid lipsticks are on the drier side and do not last on my lips always. So if you're okay with reapplying liquid lipsticks, then the Huda Beauty liquid lipsticks are a good buy. From Kat Von D, again, I would recommend their Everlasting liquid lipsticks. I like the shade Lolita in both the liquid lipstick form and their Studded Kiss regular lipstick line. So I would recommend grabbing those if you're of a similar skin tone as mine. And one of the cheaper liquid lipsticks that are really good on the lips are the Sephora Lip Cream lip stains, I believe, and these are just really good liquid lipsticks. And I have a video on my top 5 red lipsticks in which one of these features, so I'm going to link it as a card so you can see it in action if you're interested. The next is hands down my all-time favorite liquid lipstick formula, which is the Smashbox Always On liquid lipsticks. I have a bunch of shades and I've done lip swatches with those, and I'm going to link my video right here if you're interested in checking it out. But beautiful. You want a lipstick that's going to stay put all day long, that's the one for you. And if you like the regular bullet style lipsticks, Urban Decay Vice lipsticks, there's like so many colors, so many shades, so I'm sure you're going to find a finish and a shade that matches your taste. So that's something you might want to consider. They also have a lipstick kit going on right now, so I'm going to link it right here. So if those colors interest you, that's another value kit that you can purchase. Moving on to hair, I have one product, and it's the Diva Curl Super Cream Coconut Curl Styler or Style Curler. So if you have curly hair and you like to keep your hair in curls, that's the product for you. So anytime you see me with tighter curls, it's because of that product. So it really holds my curl, because otherwise when I comb out my hair and I don't have that product to my hair, this is what it ends up. So quite frizzy and just all over the place. So if you like that look where you can actually see the nice soft curls but still looks very natural and you can still run your fingers through it, that's the product for you. Now for highlighters, I have a few picks. The first one is by Becca. You should have no surprises here. And I have a full highlighter collection video that I'm going to link here if you want to see many of these as swatches or in action. So I would recommend their pressed highlighters. I love especially Champagne Pop, so you could get that one. And then I also like their liquid highlighter version. So in that, I think I prefer the shade Opal. I think that would be very flattering on Indian skin tones. Then from Fenty Beauty, I think I would recommend the Kilowatt highlighter, and the shade would be Mean Money and Hustler Baby, I think, but you can get any shade. I've swatched it in the store and I think it's a really good product. I didn't buy it because I just bought the Dose of Colors Miro May highlighter a few weeks ago, so I just didn't want to buy another highlighter at that point. So I don't have it, but that's something I am planning to buy later. Now if you find these highlighters too blingy or too much for you, then you might like a subtle highlighter. So definitely check out the Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette. It has a nice soft satin powder, but it also has two other shimmery, when I say shimmery, they're like very soft shimmery shades that you can use as highlighter. They just look beautifully glowy on the skin. Now from Marc Jacobs, I would recommend two highlighters. The first one is their liquid coconut dewdrops, I believe. That is such a beautiful but very blingy, so beware of that. It's very shiny and you can actually see some glitter particles in it. But it's a very golden peachy kind of a highlighter. It's great on its own on your cheekbones, or you can mix it in with your foundations for a dewy finish. The second one is a cream highlighter. That's their Glow Stick, and that's more subtle and just beautiful on the skin. And if you like a softer look, that's the one for you. Now fragrance is very personal. I like floral scents, so I have two picks. The first one is the Viktor & Rolf Flower Bomb. That's the one. It smells of jasmine, which I really like. And the second one is by Jo Malone. They have very unique scents, but the one that I love is called Nectarine Blossom and Honey, I believe. So that's something I like. So those are the kind of fragrances I tend to gravitate towards, but this is a good time to buy any fragrance in general. Now for foundations, I have a few picks depending on what your skin needs. If you have oily skin and your primary concern is oil control, you don't care if it doesn't look too natural, then I would highly recommend this Hourglass foundation. And I have a full review for this that I'm going to link on the screen or also in my description box below. Now you can just go to my channel and look at the review playlist and it should show up right there. Another foundation that's great for oily skin and that stays put all day is the Estee Lauder Double Wear, and that's the one I have on today in the shade Cashew. Now some people with oily skin also like the Fenty Beauty foundation. Personally, it did not work for me. It did not control oil and it kept getting oily every 2 to 3 hours. But if you don't have a super oily skin like mine, you might want to consider that one. It definitely has a more natural finish on the skin. Now these next two foundations are really good if you like a more natural finish to the skin and you don't care so much about the oil control properties. So the first one would be the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation, and the second one would be Smashbox Studio Skin 15-hour foundation. This one surprisingly lasts on my oily skin as well. So those are the two I would recommend. And if you like that beautiful luminous glowy skin kind of a finish, then I would highly recommend the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk one. And again, for any of these foundations, if I have a full in-depth review for it, I'm going to link it in the description box below. Now, blushes, I have 3 recommendations. The first one is NARS blushes. They have such a beautiful range of colors and they are pigmented and just stunning. So get yourself a NARS blush. The second one would be Viseart blush palettes. Now you get 6 shades for, I believe with the sale price, it would be about $64. And that is amazing. So that's about $11 per blush. And finally, the third pick for blushes is Tarte blushes. These are just really beautiful. You have so many more subtle shades compared to NARS, and these just last really well for a long time, even on my oily skin. Brows, I have 3 products, all by Anastasia Beverly Hills. The first one is the Brow Wiz pencils. These are amazing. If I had to pick one product from Anastasia, it would be the Brow Wiz, just because it's such a beautiful pencil. It comes to such a fine point and comes in so many different shades. The only con is that you do tend to run out of it quite quickly. So in that case, I tend to prefer the Dip Brow Pomade, because one jar literally lasts you for a year or more. So that's the second product I would recommend, the Dip Brow Pomades. And then lastly, if you like a more natural kind of finish to your brow, you may want to check out their brow powders. I use the shade Dark Brown and it creates a very soft brow. Now for concealers and correctors, I do have a few picks. The first one, you know, my holy grail concealer is this Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer. So it's the perfect concealer if you have a lot of acne or acne scarring and you want a concealer that's going to stay put all day on your skin. It is very buildable, it's beautiful, and it just lasts all day. It's beautiful. So I would highly recommend that one. Then for correcting under my eyes, I really like the Makeup Forever concealer. I know it's confusing, but they have certain shades that are meant to be used as corrector. So I use the shade R40 under my eyes. So if you have light darkness, if that makes sense, then you might want to check out that shade. It's not very orange or deep. It's really forgiving, it's moisturizing, it doesn't dry out the under eye like many of the other concealers do. 2 more concealers that are quite hydrating under the eyes, they're not drying out. The first one being the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealers. You have so many different shades. I have the shade Custard under my eyes right now that I use for highlighting. But if I want something close to my skin tone, then Ginger is the shade for me. And the last concealer I have to recommend is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer. This is again a very nice medium coverage but not drying kind of concealer. As a contour product, I have one to recommend, which is the Kevyn Aucoin Contour Powder. There's just something about this powder. The shade is just perfect, the texture is perfect, and it's just everything that you would want from a contour product. Now as eyeliners, I have 2 products to recommend. The first one is the Kat Von D Tattoo Liner. So it's great as a pen form to apply your liquid eyeliner. And the second one is by Marc Jacobs, and it's their Highliner Gel Eye Crayon Pencils, I believe, and they come in so many different shades. These are beautiful. The only con with this is you have to make sure that the cap is really on, and because otherwise they tend to dry out and then they are completely useless. Finally, the last category that you've all been probably waiting for, it is eyeshadow palettes. So let's get started. I have a bunch. The first one is Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. So if you like more neutrals and also more pinky, purpley, burgundy kind of shades, this is the palette for you. The price point is quite good, I think, quite decently priced compared to some of the other palettes that I'm going to talk about, and I think the shades are really good. And I really think the shades and the formula is really good for this palette. I do have a tutorial where I've created 3 looks using this palette, so I'm going to link it as a card on the screen right now. Next are the Smashbox Cover Shot eyeshadow palettes. I have the shade Ablaze and Bold, and I really love those. So if you don't want to get some of the more expensive palettes, I would recommend the Bold if you like colorful eyeshadows, or Ablaze if you like warm brown, reddish brown tones. It's a good palette for fall especially. Of course, I have to include the Viseart eyeshadow palettes. I would highly recommend the Pro Petite palette if you have never used Viseart eyeshadows and you want to get a feel for the eyeshadows. Although I do think that the full-size ones are slightly better off in texture and pigmentation, but these are still beautiful, the Pro Petite ones. A step up, you can also try the Theory palettes. I personally have the shades Minx and Chroma. Chroma is beautiful if you like that gray, sultry, silver, black, smoky eye. It is the palette for you. Or Minx is great for your burgundy, brown, neutral shades. But they do have different shade options, so you can find one according to your taste. And of course, I would recommend their regular eyeshadow palettes, which is the 12 pan palettes, and those are just beautiful. I would highly recommend especially the neutral matte one, and the dark matte one is creeping up as my second favorite. If you're a woman of color, I think you're going to love the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I think it has beautiful rusty warm brown shades that is just perfect for fall, and I think Urban Decay got it right this time, because now they finally cater to medium to darker skin tones. All the other palettes had like half or more shades that were too light. So that's a palette I would recommend. Finally, the last two palettes that I have to recommend are probably the most expensive. The first one being the Natasha Denona Sunset palette, and I've recently done 3 looks using this palette, which I'm going to link as a card on the screen if you want to check it out. But that palette is beautiful. It is probably hands down my most favorite palette. Yeah. Now, 2 other palettes by Natasha Denona that I'm really eyeing are the ones that have come out for the holiday edition. The first one is Joya, which is beautiful. Just look at these colors. Stunning. And the second one is Aries, again beautiful combination of colors. So those are the 2 that I would recommend if you just want to get a smaller palette instead of buying the full Sunset palette. And 2 other products for the eyes that I would recommend are by Stila. So you can either get this first smaller kit that have these 3 liquid glitter eyeshadows, or you can get this larger one which I believe has 6 shades. Now with these glitters, you have to be careful. You don't want to put it under your lower lash line if you have particularly watery or teary eyes, because these do tend to come off just with water. So I would recommend it mostly on the top eyelid or for your cut crease looks. So that's it, guys. I know this video is going to be super long, so I'm going to cut it short, but I hope these recommendations were helpful to you guys. And if you found this video useful, please don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye! Oh, by the way, happy shopping!
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.